before you click away, make sure you're subscribed. You're going to want to remember where you heard this, because what I'm about to tell you isn't something the government will ever confirm. It's not in any official report. It's not on any map. But it happened. My name is David Harlow, former Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, Force Reconnaissance. I've operated in 13 countries across 4 continents. I've seen combat in environments that would break most people before they even stepped off the transport. Desert, jungle, urban warfare zones where the buildings bleed dust and the air tastes like copper. But nothing prepared me for what we found in the Appalachian Mountains. This was October 2023. We were stationed at Camp Lejeal when the orders came through. Classified, immediate deployment. No briefing packet, no mission overview, just coordinates and a directive. Locate, assess, extract if possible. The team was small. 6 of us. Me, Corporal Ramirez, Lance Corporal Chun, Privates First Class Booker and Delgado, and our communications specialist, Sergeant Ava Kelso. We'd worked together for 2 years. Tight unit. Trust was automatic. We flew into a rural airstrip in southwestern Virginia just after midnight. No marked vehicles. No insignias. Civilian contractor trucks waiting on the tarmac. Engines idling in the cold. The air smelled like wet leaves and diesel. A man in a gray suit met us at the edge of the runway. No name. No introduction. He handed me a tablet. Thermal satellite detected anomalies here, he said, tapping the screen. Subsurface heat signatures. Intermittent seismic activity. A research facility was operating in this area until 6 months ago. Communications ceased abruptly. No distress signal. No evacuation. We need you to go in, document what you find, and report back. I studied the map. Dense forest. Elevation changes. No roads within 5 miles of sight. What kind of research? I asked. He looked at me for a long moment. The kind that doesn't get disclosed. Ramirez leaned in. Biological? The man didn't answer. He just turned and walked back toward a black SUV parked near the hangar. That's a yes, Ramirez muttered. We loaded into the trucks. The drive took 90 minutes, winding through narrow roads that barely qualified as paths. No streetlights. No houses. Just trees pressing in from both sides, their branches forming a canopy that swallowed the stars. We parked 3 miles out and continued on foot. The forest was silent. Not peaceful, silent. No insects. No birds. No wind. Just our boots crunching through the underbrush and the rhythmic hiss of our breathing. The smell of damp earth was overpowering, mixed with something else. Something metallic. Stale. Chun was on point, night vision engaged. Kelso monitored comms. I stayed center, scanning the terrain. The facility was supposed to be another 2 clicks northeast, buried into the mountainside. We found the perimeter fence first. It was industrial grade, 12 feet high, topped with razor wire. But it had been torn open. Not cut, torn. The metal was bent outward, twisted like something had punched through from the inside. The edges were sharp and jagged, still gleaming faintly in the moonlight. Jesus, Booker whispered. Stay sharp, I said. We moved through the gap. 50 meters ahead, the entrance appeared. Concrete bunker set into the rock face, reinforced steel door hanging off its hinges. The frame was warped, claw marks gouged deep into the metal. Delgado ran his gloved fingers over the grooves. What the hell did this? Something strong, Ramirez said quietly. I clicked on my helmet light. The beam cut into the darkness beyond the door. The interior was a tunnel sloping downward, walls lined with exposed pipes and conduit. Emergency lighting flickered weakly along the ceiling, casting everything in sickly yellow. The smell hit us immediately. Rot, chemicals, burned plastic. And beneath it all, something organic and rancid that coated the back of your throat. Kelso gagged. God, what is that? Mask up, I ordered. We pulled our respirators into place and entered. The tunnel descended at a steep angle, the air growing colder with every step. Our light swept across the walls, revealing scorch marks, dried bloodstains, and long scratch marks that ran parallel along the concrete. They were deep, methodical, like something had dragged its limbs along the surface as it moved. "Harlow," Chin said, his voice tight. "Look." He was aiming his light at the ceiling. There were handprints, dozens of them, pressed into the concrete in dark, rust-colored smears. But they weren't right. The fingers were too long, the palms too narrow. "Keep moving," I said. The tunnel opened into a central atrium, 3 stories deep, ringed with metal catwalks and observation windows. Equipment lay scattered across the floor, overturned tables, shattered monitors, broken glass everywhere. A large digital display on the far wall flickered weakly, cycling through corrupted data streams. But it was the smell that dominated. Thick, wet, like meat left in the sun. Ramirez aimed his rifle at a doorway to our left. Movement. We froze. Nothing. Then a sound. Clicking. Soft. Rhythmic. Like stones tapping together. It came from deeper in the facility, echoing up through the ventilation shafts. "Contact." Booker asked, his voice barely audible. "Unknown," I said. "Kelso, get a signal out. Let command know we're inside." She keyed her radio. Static. She adjusted the frequency. More static. "I'm getting interference," she said. "Something's blocking transmission." The clicking stopped. Silence pressed down on us like a weight. Then, from somewhere below, a long, drawn-out scraping sound. Metal on stone. Slow. Deliberate. "We need to move," I said. We descended a stairwell to the 2nd level. The walls here were lined with observation cells, each one sealed behind. Reinforced glass. Most were empty, but some still had remnants. Shredded clothing. Broken restraints. Dark stains pooled in the corners. One cell had words scratched into glass. "They listen." Chin stopped in front of it, his breath fogging the surface. "Who wrote this?" "Doesn't matter," I said. "Keep moving." We passed through a corridor marked biological containment. Authorized personnel only. The doors were open. Inside, we found laboratory equipment, dissection tables, specimen jars filled with murky fluid. And in the center of the room, a massive cylindrical tank, cracked open from the inside. Thick cables dangled from the top, sparking weakly. Ramirez approached it slowly, his light tracing the interior. "There's something in here." We gathered around. The bottom of the tank was filled with a viscous, amber-colored liquid. Suspended within it were fragments, bone, tissue, something that might have been cartilage. But the structure was wrong. The bones were elongated, the joints reversed. What the hell were they growing? Delgado asked. Before anyone could answer, the lights went out. Complete darkness. Then, clicking. Closer now. All around us. I activated my infrared. The room lit up in green and black. And there, in the corner near the doorway, I saw it. A shape, pale, skeletal, crouched low on all fours. Its head turned toward us. No eyes, just smooth, bone-white skin stretched over an elongated skull. Its mouth opened, and it screamed. Not a human sound, not an animal sound. Something between the two, high-pitched, oscillating. It vibrated through the walls, through our skulls, through our bones. Ramirez fired. The muzzle flash lit the room for a split second. I saw it lunge, impossibly fast, and then the lights flickered back on. It was gone. Where did it go? Booker shouted, spinning in place. Quiet. I hissed. We stood back to back, weapons raised, scanning every shadow. The clicking resumed, but now it was above us. I looked up. It was clinging to the ceiling, limbs bent at unnatural angles, its head cocked to one side, watching. Contact. I yelled. We opened fire. It dropped, landed in the center of our formation, and scattered us like debris. Ramirez went down hard, his rifle skittering across the floor. The creature moved in bursts, too fast to track, its limbs snapping into position with mechanical precision. Chun swung his rifle like a club. It caught the thing across the torso, and I heard bone crack. It recoiled, shrieking, and retreated to the doorway. Go, go, go. I shouted. We ran, back through the corridor, back toward the atrium. But the facility was changing. Doors that had been open were now sealed. Corridors that led one direction now looped back on themselves. Harlow were going in circles. Kelso yelled. The clicking surrounded us. Not just one source. Dozens. They're hurting us, Ramirez said, breathing hard. He was right. And that's when I realized the worst part. They weren't hunting us. They were testing us. Part 2. We barricaded ourselves in what looked like control room. Reinforced door. No windows. A wall of dead monitors, and a single functioning terminal casting pale blue light across our faces. Ramirez shoved a desk against the door, while Booker and Delgado stacked equipment into a makeshift barrier. Kelso, any signal? I asked. She was hunched over her radio rig, twisting dials, keying through frequencies. Static, white noise, then faintly a voice, distorted, repeating, "Do not proceed. Facility compromised. Do not proceed." "That's a recorded loop," she said, her voice tight. "It's old, months old." "Meaning no one's coming," Chin said. I didn't answer. I moved to the terminal and tapped the keyboard. The screen flickered, lines of corrupted text scrolling past. Then a directory appeared. Project Echelon, classified. I clicked it open. Video files. Dozens of them. Dated from 18 months ago to 6 months ago. The last entry was marked. Final log, Dr. and Kova. I played it. The screen filled with the image of a woman in her 50s, gaunt, hollow-eyed. She was sitting in a dimly lit room, hands trembling as she gripped the edges of a desk. "This is Dr. and Kovac, lead researcher, Project Echelon. If you're watching this, the facility has been breached. Do not attempt recovery. Do not attempt containment. Evacuate immediately and collapse the access tunnels." She paused, swallowing hard. "We thought we were studying a geological anomaly, subsurface caverns, unexplained biodiversity. But we were wrong. They were already here. They've always been here. And we woke them up." Her eyes darted to something off camera. "They don't hunt like animals. They coordinate. They plan. And they learn." A sound in the background. Clicking. She leaned closer to the camera, her voice dropping to a whisper. "If you hear them tapping, don't move. They're mapping you. If you hear them breathing, run. They've already decided to kill you. And if you see one..." The feed cut to black, then static. "Jesus Christ," Booker muttered. A crash against the door. We spun around, rifles raised. Another impact. The door buckled inward. The desk screeched across the floor. "They're coming through," Ramirez shouted. I scanned the room. One exit. The door we came through. No vents large enough to crawl through. No secondary access. We were trapped. "Kelso, blow the lock." I ordered. "What?" "The electronic lock. Fry it. Maybe it'll buy us time." She moved fast, pulling a small charge from her pack and affixing it to the control panel beside the door. "Fire in the hole." We turned away. The charge detonated with sharp crack, and the panel exploded in a shower of sparks. The lights in the room died. Emergency backups kicked in, bathing everything in red. The impact stopped. Silence. "Did it work?" Delgado whispered. Then scratching. Not at the door. In the walls. "They're in the vents," Chin said, his voice hollow. I aimed my light at the ceiling. The vent grate was vibrating. Something was moving inside. Fast. Scraping metal. Multiple sources. Defensive positions. I barked. We formed a circle, backs together, weapons trained on the ceiling and walls. The scratching intensified. Then one of the grates tore free and clattered to the floor. A limb emerged, pale, jointed wrong. Fingers tipped with blackened nails. Ramirez fired. The limb recoiled and the creature shrieked, a sound that felt like needles driving into my ears. Then another grate fell, and another. They poured out. 3 of them. No, 4. Moving like spiders, limbs bending at impossible angles, heads low, mouths open. their jaws unhinged, revealing rows of thin, needle-like teeth. We opened fire. The noise was deafening in enclosed space. Muzzle flashes lit the room in strobing bursts. One creature went down, ichor sprang from its torso. Another lunged at Booker. He sidestepped, swinging his rifle, and cracked it across the skull. It collapsed, twitching, but the others kept coming. One grabbed Delgado by the ankle and yanked. He went down hard, his helmet cracking against the floor. The creature dragged him toward the vent. Delgado! I fired at the creature's head. It released him and skittered backward, hissing. Delgado scrambled to his feet, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. I'm good. I'm good. We need to move. Kelso shouted. I grabbed the terminal, yanking the data drive free. Go! Go! Ramirez kicked the desk aside and shoved the door open. We spilled into the corridor, firing behind us as the creatures gave chase. They moved wrong. Not running, flowing, like liquid given shape. They clung to the walls, the ceiling, their limbs extending and retracting with wet, snapping sounds. We ran. The corridor twisted, turned, split into junctions. I didn't care. We just moved. Behind us, the clicking multiplied. A chorus, a symphony of tapping stone and scraping claws. Left, Chun yelled. We turned. The corridor opened into a wide chamber, massive, cathedral-like. The walls were natural stone, carved with deep, vertical grooves that spiraled upward into darkness. The floor was uneven, slick with moisture, and in the center, a pit. It stretched at least 50 feet across, the edges crumbling into blackness. No bottom visible, just a void. What the hell is this place? Booker asked, his voice echoing. I moved to the edge, shining my light downward. The beam didn't reach the bottom, but I saw something else. Structures, built into the walls of the pit. Platforms, bridges, made of stone and bone. They built this, I said quietly. Who? Kelso asked. Not who. Them. The clicking stopped. We turned. They were standing at the entrance. Dozens of them, packed together, watching. Why aren't they attacking? Ramirez whispered. I didn't have an answer. Then one of them stepped forward, taller than the others. Its skull elongated, ridged along the top. It tilted its head, and I heard a sound I'll never forget. Breathing. Slow. Deliberate. Human-like. It opened its mouth, and it spoke. Not words, not language, but a mimicry, a distorted echo of a human voice. Do not proceed. It was repeating the warning from the radio. Oh, God, Kelso breathed. The creature took another step. The others followed. Harlow, Ramirez said urgently. Orders. I looked at the pit, then at the creatures, then at my team. Jump, I said. What? Jump. Now. I didn't wait. I grabbed Kelso and ran for the edge. We leaped and fell into the darkness. Part 3. The fall lasted 3 seconds. Maybe 4. Long enough for every thought compressed into a single primal scream inside my skull. Then we hit water. Cold. Shockingly cold. It swallowed me whole, dragging me down into black silence. I kicked hard, lungs burning, until my head broke the surface. Gasping, choking. Around me, the others surfaced one by one. Ramirez, Chun, Booker, Delgado, Kelso. Sound off. I shouted, my voice echoing in the vast space. Here, here, present. We treaded water, our gear weighing us down. I clicked on my helmet light. The beam revealed a subterranean lake, surrounded by jagged stone walls that rose up into darkness. 50 meters ahead, a shore, rock and gravel. Swim. I ordered. We moved as one, cutting to the frigid water. My muscles screamed. My fingers went numb. But we reached the shore and dragged ourselves onto the rocks, collapsing in exhausted heaps. Above us, at the rim of the pit, I saw movement. The creatures lined the edge, staring down, waiting. They're not following, Chin said between gasps. They don't need to. I replied. They know where we are. Kelso coughed, spitting out water. Where the hell are we? I scanned the area with my light. We were in a cavern, natural formation, but there were signs of modification. The walls were smooth in places, carved with the same vertical grooves we'd seen above. And ahead, passages, tunnels branching off in multiple directions. This is their territory, I said. We're underground, probably a mile deep. Then how do we get out? Booker asked. I didn't answer. I pulled out the data drive I had taken from the terminal. First, we figure out what the hell they were doing here. I activated my wrist-mounted tablet and plugged in the drive. Files appeared, documents, schematics, and more video logs. I opened one at random. Dr. Kovac again, younger, healthier, standing in front of a massive tunnel entrance. Day 43 of Project Echelon. We've penetrated the third sublevel. The structures we've found are unlike anything in the archaeological record. Symmetrical, intentional, estimated age, over 10,000 years. But the most significant discovery is biological. The camera panned to a table. On it, a specimen, one of the creatures, dead, pinned open, its anatomy exposed. Initial analysis suggests a form of convergent evolution, but there are anomalies. The bone density is 3 times that of humans. The musculature operates on a hydraulic system, and the neural structure. She hesitated. It's almost identical to ours. They have a prefrontal cortex, capable of abstract thought, planning, maybe even language. She looked directly at the camera. These aren't animals. They're people, or they were, a long time ago. The video ended. Jesus, Ramirez muttered. I opened another file. Schematic diagrams, maps of the cavern system, and a note. Communication experiment. Phase 3. Objective. Establish linguistic exchange using auditory pattern recognition. Status. Successful. Subjects respond to verbal cues. Mimicry observed. They taught them to talk, Chin said quietly. Not talk, I corrected. Mimic. Repeat. They didn't understand the words. They just learned the sounds. Delgado pointed at the tunnels ahead. So if they're smart and they're coordinated, why did they let us jump? I stared into the darkness. Because down here, I said slowly, we're not the hunters. We're the prey, and they want us to run. A sound echoed from one of the tunnels. Clicking. Distant, but growing closer. We move, I said. Now. We entered the largest tunnel, moving fast but quiet. Our lights cut through the darkness, revealing walls that glistened with moisture. The air smelled like wet stone and something else, something organic, fungal. The floor was uneven, littered with debris, bones, not human, animal, deer, bear, picked clean. They hunt up there, Ramirez said, kicking a skull aside. Drag it down here. Then why haven't we seen them on the surface? Kelso asked. Because they're nocturnal, I said, and smart enough to stay hidden. We moved deeper. The tunnel branched. I chose left. No reason. Just instinct. The clicking followed. Always behind us. Never close enough to see, but always there. We descended into a chamber filled with structures. Huts, made of bone and stone, arranged in a circle around a central fire pit. Long cold. This is a village, Chin said, awe in his voice. I moved to the center. The fire pit was deep. At the bottom, ashes. And within the ashes, metal. Fragments of tools. Human tools. They've been taking things, I said, from the surface. For years. Maybe decades. Booker picked up a rusted dog tag. He read the name aloud. Private First Class Samuel Ortiz. United States Army. When I asked, he turned it over. 1987. A chill ran through me. They've been here the whole time, Kelso whispered. Watching us. Waiting. A sound shattered the silence. Breathing. Close. I spun around, rifle raised. It was standing at the entrance of the chamber. The tall one, the leader, its head tilted, and it spoke again. Do not proceed. Then behind it, dozens more appeared, filling the tunnel, blocking our exit. Harlow, Ramirez said urgently, we're surrounded. I scanned the chamber. One other exit, a narrow passage at the far end. There! I pointed. Move! We ran. They followed. But this time they didn't just chase. They split up. Some followed directly. Others disappeared into side tunnels, flanking us, cutting us off. They're boxing us in. Chin shouted, keep moving. The passage narrowed. We had to move single file. The walls pressed in. The ceiling lowered. My shoulders scraped stone. Behind us, clicking. Ahead, clicking. We were being funneled. And then the passage opened into another chamber. Smaller, circular. And at the center, a structure, an altar, made of bone, human bone, skulls arranged in spirals, femurs stacked like pillars, and at the top, a single object, a radio, old, military issue, Vietnam era. It was still on. The speaker hissed with static. Kelso, I said quietly, is that transmitting? She moved closer, checking the frequency. Her face went pale. It's a beacon, she whispered. It's been broadcasting for 40 years. Broadcasting what? She adjusted the dial, and we heard it. A voice, distorted, looping. This is Firebase Kodiak, under attack. They're in the tunnels. Send help, they're learning. The message cut off, then repeated. They kept it, I said. As a trophy. The clicking stopped. I turned slowly. They were standing in a circle around us. 20, 30, more, silent, watching. The tall one stepped forward. It opened its mouth. And this time it didn't mimic. It spoke, not English, not any language I recognized, but it was language, structured, intentional. They're talking to each other, Chin breathed. The creatures closed in, opened fire. I screamed. We unleashed everything. Full auto. The sound was thunder. The chamber filled with light and smoke and the shriek of wounded creatures. But there were too many. One grabbed Booker from behind, dragging him backward. He fired wildly, screaming. Ramirez tackled the creature, driving his knife into its skull. It released Booker, thrashing, then went still. Another lunge at Delgado. He sidestepped, fired point-blank into its chest. It collapsed, but they kept coming. We can't hold them, Kelso shouted. I grabbed a radio from the altar and smashed it against the ground. The beacon died. The creatures froze. Silence. They stared at me, at the broken radio. And then they screamed, all of them, at once, a sound like the world tearing apart. They rushed us. Run. I roared. We bolted through a side passage. The creatures poured after us like a flood, limbs and teeth and clicking chaos. The passage twisted, rose. We were climbing. Ahead, light. Real light. Daylight. There! I pointed. We ran harder. The exit was a crack in the rock. Narrow. We squeezed through one by one, tumbling out onto a forested hillside. Sunlight. Air. I collapsed, gasping. Is everyone? Booker's hit. Ramirez yelled. I crawled over. Booker was on his back, blood soaking through his vest, deep lacerations across his torso. He was pale, breathing shallow. Stay with me, Booker, I said. He gripped my arm. Did we get out? Yeah, we're out. He smiled. Then his hand went limp. Booker! Kelso screamed. Ramirez checked for a pulse. He shook his head. I stood slowly, staring at the crack in the rock. It was silent now, but I knew they were just inside, waiting. We need to move, I said. Now. We carried Booker's body 3 miles to the extraction point. A helicopter was waiting. No questions asked. Just a silent flight back to base. 3 days later, the facility was officially sealed. Concrete, steel, buried under 30 feet of rock. But I know the truth. They're still down there, and they're still learning. Part 4. The debriefing lasted 9 hours. We sat in a windowless room at an undisclosed location, fluorescent lights humming overhead, while two men in suits asked the same questions over and over. What did you see? What did you hear? Did anyone else know about this? I told them everything. Showed them the data drive, the video logs, Dr. Kovac's warnings, the bones, the radio, the creatures. They listened in silence. When I finished, the older one, gray hair, dead eyes, leaned back his chair. Sergeant Harlow, what you described constitutes a significant breach of operational security. The facility in question was engaged in classified research under the jurisdiction of DARPA and the CDC. Your unauthorized extraction of data is a federal crime. I stared at him. We lost a man down there. Private First Class Booker's death is regrettable. His family will be notified that he died in a training accident. You and your team will not speak of this incident to anyone, ever. Do you understand? Those things are still alive. I said, still down there. You sealed the entrance, but there are other tunnels, miles of them. They could surface anywhere. The man exchanged a glance with his partner. The situation is contained, he said flatly. Contained? Ramirez stood up, his chair screeching. We barely made it out. They're intelligent. They hunt in packs. And you think a concrete plug is going to stop them? Sit down, Corporal. Answer the question. The younger suit stood and placed a hand on his sidearm. Sit down. Ramirez sat. The older man folded his hands on the table. Project Echelon was discontinued 6 months ago for precisely the reasons you encountered. Dr. Kovac and her team violated ethical protocols. They engaged with a species that should have remained undiscovered. Their actions resulted in their deaths. Unfortunate, but concluded. Concluded? I leaned forward. They're mimicking human speech. They built structures. They used tools. You created a communication bridge with something that's been living under our feet for thousands of years, and you think it's concluded. The program is shut down, he said. The creatures remain underground, and they will stay underground. That's all you need to know. What about other sites? Kelso asked. Appalachia stretches for hundreds of miles. If they're in one location, they're in others. The man didn't answer. She pressed on. How many facilities were there? Still no answer. Jesus Christ, she whispered. There's more than one. The older man stood. You're all being reassigned. Different units. Different bases. Effective immediately. Any attempt to contact each other or discuss this mission will result in dishonorable discharge and federal prosecution. Sign the NDAs. Collect your belongings. You leave tonight. We signed. We didn't have a choice. That was 8 months ago. I'm stationed at Camp Pendleton now. Different unit. Different life. But I can't let it go. I've spent every off-duty hour researching. Old records. Missing persons reports. Unexplained disappearances in Appalachian forests. And the pattern is undeniable. Hikers vanish. Hunters disappear. Entire families go missing on camping trips. The official explanation is always the same. Lost, succumbed to exposure, animal attack. But I've read the witness statements that never made it to official reports. The ones that got dismissed as hysteria. People describe pale figures in the trees. Clicking sounds in the dark. Voices calling their names in the woods. Voices that sound like their friends, their family, but wrong. And then there are the caves. Caves that don't appear on any map. Caves that locals avoid. Caves with warnings carved into the rock outside. Stay out. They listen. Last week, I got a message. Encrypted. No sender name. Just a video file. It was security footage. Black and white. Time stamped 2 days prior. The location, Greenbrier County, West Virginia. The video showed a forest trail. Empty. Then, at the edge of the frame, movement. A figure. Pale. Skeletal. Crouched low. It moved across the trail. Stopped. Tilted its head. Listening. And then it looked directly at the camera. The feed cut out. At the bottom of the message was a single line of text. They're spreading. I tried to trace the message. Couldn't. Whoever sent it covered their tracks. But I believe them, because 2 nights ago, I was out running on base. Late, alone, and I heard it, clicking, faint, distant, but unmistakable. I stopped, scanned the darkness. Nothing. Then, from the trees beyond the fence, breathing, slow, deliberate, I ran back to the barracks and didn't sleep that night. I'm not the only one. Ramirez contacted me through a burner phone. He's in North Carolina now. He told me he's heard them too. At night, near the edge of the woods. Chin sent me a photo. Taken outside his apartment in Tennessee. It shows a handprint on his window. The fingers are too long. Delgado has responded to any messages. His family says he's gone dark. Kelso is missing. Officially AWOL. But I don't think she ran. I think they took her. The government knows this is happening. They know the creatures are expanding. They know the containment failed. But they're not doing anything because they can't. You can't fight something that's been living underground for millennia. Something that's smarter than we gave it credit for. Something that's patient. They're not invading. They're reclaiming. Here's what I need you to understand. If you live anywhere near the Appalachian Mountains, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, you need to listen. Do not go hiking alone. Do not explore unmapped caves. Do not follow voices in the woods, no matter how familiar they sound. If you hear clicking, leave immediately. If you see something pale moving through the trees, do not investigate. And if you find a structure made of bone, run, because they're not mindless creatures. They're not animals. They're hunters, and they've been watching us for a very long time. I don't know how much longer I have before they find me. I've broken every protocol by writing this. But you need to know the things we found in the Appalachian Mountains are still there. They're still learning. And sooner or later, they're going to come for all of us. Last night, I heard them again. Outside my barracks. Tapping on the walls. Testing the doors. I opened the window and looked out. They were standing in the tree line. Dozens of them. Silent. Watching. The tall one was at the front. It tilted its head. And then it spoke. Not a mimicry this time. Not a recording. It spoke my name. Clearly. Perfectly. David. I slammed the window shut and turned on every light. But I know it doesn't matter. They know where I am. And when they decide it's time, they'll come. If you're watching this video and you hear clicking outside your window tonight, don't look. Just pray they're not there for you. Because once they know your name, you're already theirs.